Hey guys, Inorganic Pixel here, just doing another game of Deadlock. I'm doing Lash today. Lash is one of those characters, here's the build by the way, Lash is one of those characters that I either have a really tremendous game with or I bomb it really hard. In all honesty, if I ever were to do like a review for this game, I think the most interesting character in this game is definitely Lash. His moveset is so dynamic and also like he would not exist in any other kind of third-person shooter MOBA game, and I think it's really kind of the definitive reason as to why Deadlock is so interesting as a MOBA shooter or whatever. I don't want to talk too much about Lash, though. We'll kind of get into that at a later date someday. But I want to talk a little bit about what's going on, I guess, within Deadlock. And it was kind of surprising. There were some leaks that came out. Supposedly that there are other test servers that exist within Deadlock, which is interesting to think about. And then on top of that, with those test servers, they test out things like cosmetics, new weapons, characters, blah, blah. And it seems that there's been a huge leak in terms of what kind of characters we could maybe anticipate in the near future with Deadlock, some leaks in regards to player models or even view models for the player select screen. I'll show some examples here. I want to preface this really tremendously as much as I possibly can here, that what you're seeing is leaked footage, or leaked, I guess, photos of what characters may or may not look like, what characters may or may not exist in the near future within Deadlock. And I want to preface specifically that there are three things that might be happening with what you're seeing here. Number one, what you're seeing here might be like earlier models or models that are just kind of tested, or who knows, even like cosmetic models for specific characters. And then another thing too is that we're still in a fairly big testing phase of Deadlock, and the fact that there's other testing servers and also who might be part of those servers is interesting. I would really argue that what you're seeing here is definitely not slated to come out, or not a guaranteed to actually come out. Not sure how I got that parry there. That really was a big last second parry. Probably could have gotten another one with Shiv if I was quick with it. I'm trying to get a lot better at parrying. I'm definitely one of the few skill sets within Deadlock that I'm trying to get better at. And that Lash slam just sucks. So, I think one thing I will say about some of these view models and whatnot, I don't really mind a lot of how the cartoonish nature of the character select screen looks and whatnot. And one other thing too is that the models themselves, as Valve has mentioned, are not final. What you're definitely seeing here is not final even in this test environment, and also even in the environment that you're probably used to. A lot of the stuff you're seeing is not final. I would be curious though. One thing I thought was interesting about the test environment stuff was that the names for some of the characters were changed around. Shiv has like a weird name, and so does Lash. So it's kind of a situation of like cooler Lash or not cool Lash. And I'd just be interested to see what some of these new characters look like. I think that is the most interesting aspect of this whole test environment thing. Unfortunately, I really wish there was more information in regards to, I guess what I would be hoping for in terms of leaks, or what I imagine is going on in those test environments, is that they're probably testing out a lot of the abilities, or even how some of the characters look and function. Probably even testing out how those characters operate on other hardware that exists. Within game testing, Valve has to account for a lot of different variables. Those variables could be things like lag, or the actual hardware that a person might be using on one end to the other. So that's why I imagine these private test servers exist. And on top of that too, they probably exist because they're probably made of a collective of people who have played the game quite a lot, or maybe are really familiar with these test environments, or really familiar with maybe these mechanics that are coming through. I know in the past, a game that someone whose shoulder they tapped on early on within Deadlock was the developer for Risk of Rain, Risk of Rain 2, I should say, the 2D version, which is like a 3D shooter that is really great. By the way, you should definitely check that game out. And when you play that game, you kind of get a sense like, wow, this really does feel like a big blueprint for what was to come with Deadlock. If I just held there for a little longer, I probably could have gotten the 7-2 with my ult, which would have been brutal. But I just wanted to make sure that Shiv is hard to kill for early on. And Lash, one thing I'll say about Lash too, early on, he is very weak. It's very hard for him to get a lot of movement going. So I think I do a pretty solid job of staying alive here for the most part. So with those test environments and everything, I would be curious to see as to when it all just boils down to when Valve decides to do anything with Deadlock, or what Valve decides to do and when they decide to do it with Deadlock. I understand that the environment, I imagine the environment that everyone has now, or the very public test environment that exists now, is really more or less to test maybe like connection like aspects, or even test out like how certain characters play with one another, or even gauge how the actual game should function. I think 3-lane specifically was a big component of the test of the public test environment. They probably saw that a lot of those, the influx of new players and how that kind of correlated and how that changed the dynamic of maybe the pace of the game a bit. So those are just my guesses. Again, it all just boils down to when Valve ultimately decides to tell us what the hell is going on with the game itself. And I said this before my last video, I'm really excited for the developer commentary for this game, specifically when it comes out. It's going to be very interesting to hear and see what Valve was thinking. Because, this is probably the most, if not one of the most experimental games Valve has ever done. You could argue Portal is definitely up there as well. But Portal did not have as much mechanic minutia and a lot of these components that make Deadlock so interesting. With how players use the specific items that are given within the item shop, with also how players interact and utilize small little nooks and crannies of the map and everything. God, I got absolutely shredded there. Seven's ult just annihilates me. I never seem to understand how Seven's ult works, but other people seem to get it just fine. So I would be interested to see like some of these characters that I'm excited for. I think the Bookworm one is interesting. The Attendant guy looks cool. I also think that the Frankenstein-looking guy looks neat. I would also be curious to... The big thing with any of these characters that I'm always the most interested in is their voice lines, or their background and their story, and like their kind of who they are as a character specifically. I've said this a billion times already, but I think Deadlock's coolest aspect is how well written these characters are, and how well written the actual world is within Deadlock. And it is going to be interesting to see. It is going to be interesting to see how the already existing characters are going to probably go through a lot of like big changes cosmetically as well. I know the Viper one was kind of a contentious one. I'm not a big fan of that. If that is potentially a rework of Viper's look and everything, I really like how Viper looks, and specifically, I love Viper's character, like her writing specifically. I think she is one of the funniest characters, I think, in any video game. Probably one of the funniest characters Valve's ever written. They just made her like a total psychopath and like a total like nutcase from New Jersey, which is very funny. I think one aspect, I'd be curious to see if maybe this is still in the testing phase, or still in the phase of we're not 100% sure yet where Valve stands on it, is maybe even the voice acting done for some of these characters, or the writing for some of these characters. If I could actually push Valve to do anything cosmetically speaking, or even like within that realm of voice acting and writing and whatnot, I would love to hear these characters talk more with each other. I think that'd be so cool. There have been like other leaks of like supposedly voice lines where characters would like complain to one another if they lost the game or lost a tower and whatnot. I think it'd be so cool to hear voice lines where like Lash and Dynamo lose a tower, or even win a tower. That would be kind of sick too. I wanted these characters talking more. It definitely feels like they talk a lot during the beginning, and then talk occasionally during callouts. But I would love to hear a lot more talking from some of these characters here and there, and potentially even some settings to dial that back and forth as I see fit. I don't want them like hosting a podcast like I am right now, but I think it'd be cool if like they sounded and maybe made more comments that were not just directly related to the game itself specifically. For example, one character that people do not shut up about, if you're ever playing this character specifically, is Shiv and Abrams. If you're ever like playing as Shiv or Abrams, your opponents will make comments to you constantly, and it's kind of annoying because I wish they would make comments about my partner in my lane as well, as much as they make comments about like when I'm playing Abrams. But who knows? That's all probably still in the testing environment, and probably all I guess I would be curious to wonder what environment, if Valve does any testing specifically for voice lines like that specifically, or how that process works. I will say one thing with Valve is that if you've ever actually like sat down and listened to the developers' commentary for any of their games, they're very insightful. Don't get me wrong. I love that feature that Valve implements. I never like sat through and listened to a whole developer commentary within one single game, but they're very interesting though to like loop in on a YouTube video or check out every once in a while. But God, there's sometimes like when I made that video for Half-Life 2 actually with the developer commentary on just briefly. One aspect that I was kind of bummed about was like there would be like little idiosyncrasies with Half-Life 2 specifically, or like little moments or little aspects of the actual game itself that I wish had more developer commentary on. But I guess you can't have commentary on every little thing that exists in the game. So I that's just my little 2 cents about this. We are winning this lane pretty handily actually, and my Lash game's pretty solid here so far. Lash is pretty much all about getting as high up as you possibly can to get the most value out of that Grand Slam. I could have theoretically maybe gotten 7 down from his ult here, but Shiv here is pushed up pretty ridiculously right now, and using my totally flubbed that. Nice job, way to go. Lash's ult is one of those ults that either you get how it works or you just totally cheese it every single time. And I cheese it very frequently, but I did not cheese that parry. That parry was solid. I think even the 7 compliments me in the chat because of how cool that parry was. I just heard him charging with that punch, and I just landed it right on time. So I feel like, thankfully, Lash is a really great counter to characters like 7, like maybe even Haze. Lash is just, he's all about spacing, kind of getting the spacing from your character with your opponent and whatnot, and kind of controlling the environment around that. We get Guardian, we win lane. Nice job. Solid work here, everybody. And I just kind of go to work on stealing some of their farm here a little bit, I think. And what else should we talk about here? I mean, let's in the news here. Let me go through my Rolodex of news topics here. These 2 guys had an argument on the internet, which was interesting. I don't know what they were talking about. Some country in the Mediterranean, probably Italy, I guess, right? And I guess kind of related to that. Supposedly there's a lot of rumors that Creator Clash 3 is being canceled. So, which, I don't know. YouTube drama is one of those things where I feel, where I hate how interested I am in it. I really, one thing I want to preface real quick is that there's not I don't think YouTubers are like just for example, like iDubbbz, like Ethan Klein, like even Hassan Piker. I think the mask that they wear when they are either broadcasting or doing a video is probably totally different to who they are as real people. You have to remind yourself when talking about any of this crap, YouTube drama, celebrity stuff, even politics, that there's a lot of moving parts, even like little idiosyncrasies within the people that you're talking about and whatnot. And so I don't want to come off this is not going to be I'm going to shit on iDubbbz moment, but I am saddened to hear that I guess Creator Clash is not doing super hyped right now. I was really looking forward to the Harley fight and also the fight with LA Beast. LA Beast is great. I love his YouTube videos. He's very funny. His editing and also his like timing and everything is also pretty on point. Out of all the food YouTubers, he's pretty funny. He's pretty great. I like his like little silly food challenges he does. And honestly, I like LA Beast a lot because he got me and my buddies through COVID pretty handily on Discord. We used to watch him consistently. Harley, I gotta respect where he comes from. The epic mealtime stuff, and he's kind of become just the everyday. He's become this YouTube stoner dude, which I think is a cool branding move on his part. He goes on PKA occasionally, and he basically just brings up how much of a stoner and how Jewish he is, which is pretty funny. But I guess because of the H3H3, who knows actually if it's actually entirely because of H3H3 with that content cop that came out that. I don't know, man. That one was pretty rough, iDubbbz. I don't want to be a jerk here or anything, but that one felt like a little little hamstrung together there. And also really not warranted, and it just seems that Creator Clash, from where I'm sitting right now, is kind of falling apart because of a lot of political drama, or drama around foreign affairs, which doesn't make any sense for a boxing event. I just don't understand how he went from the USF Stadium and now thinks that he could pack in the Tampa Bay stadium. If it's still in Tampa, I believe it is. I know those stadiums fairly well. I used to live in that general area at one point in my life, so I just don't think that there's really an interest in that aspect of YouTube like content creators anymore. I don't know. I think that was exciting at one period of time, especially even during COVID again. I know I keep bringing up COVID a lot, but you have to think like a lot of things totally changed, and the whole game was like different during that time. I just don't think, number one, people have the money or have the time to devote to a spending on Creator Clash or going to an event like this. This Dynamo unfortunately kind of blows that all. That's not my fault though. That's your fault, dude. And I think that a smarter thing to be, if I was iDubbbz tomorrow, if I woke up in his shoes, I think a smarter thing to be would be like, hey, why don't we just make this an entirely we'll scale the actual, because no one really cares how big the stadium is that we're filling. No one really cares the size of the arena where this boxing match is happening. I would make the arena very small and just have a small group of dedicated fans who wanted to show up and come to the event and everything. And I would make the streaming aspect of it free. The fights are already free as is for the most part. You just have to know where you're looking. You have to just like pull that obviously from other YouTube streams. People stream it illegally, and rather than fight that, why not lean more into it? I feel like you could do more sponsored content. I feel like you could argue that there's higher viewership from that whole thing. I wanted to watch the Creator Clash, and who knows if it's even going to happen anymore. But I wanted to watch it, but it's like $40 to stream it. I don't want to pay $40 to watch a amateur boxing fight. These YouTubers are cool and all. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of like some of their work, but they're not cool enough for me to spend $40. I don't think anyone really even has just $40 just to throw around anymore. So I don't know. I hope that Ian and the team can kind of pull something together and bring some form of Creator Clash, or I hope that they at least, if it's not going to go through anymore, I hope everything behind the scenes is okay. It's just good luck, best of luck there, best wishes. And more gaming related news, few gaming stuff actually. Is a big gaming week for gamers, and a kind of a upsetting week. I'll start with Polygon layoffs happening. I get it. It's fun to dunk on gaming journalists. Don't get me wrong; it can be fun, but I don't know. I don't like the idea of people losing their jobs, man. That sucks. I hope the best for those people who lost their jobs from Polygon and everything. I just don't understand though. How is gaming journalism? That I feel like that space is totally been like evolved and rewritten from the early days. Like back in the day, it used to work for Game Informer, and there'd be like a bunch of magazines out. You had a website, a few YouTube videos, but you ultimately got early access to a lot of that stuff, and you got early access and previews to the hottest new games. You got review copies and whatnot. But now there's like YouTubers that exist, and it feels like you're at a better. If you want to be a gaming journalist, I think that there is a realm where. Don't get me wrong. I think there is still a demand for gaming journalism. There is still a need, and people want to hear opinions and thoughts on gaming. I mean, you're watching this video. In a weird way, you could argue that I am, in some form or fashion, a type of gaming journalist. Not sure how that slam did not connect there, but that's okay. I think we end up killing the 7 here because of this big old head, those headshots. But I just don't think a unit or a subsidiary or like a whole organization is needed to discuss gaming news. And if so, that organization's got to be very small. I don't really think it's necessary to scale up to that size that Polygon was at. They had layoffs, if I remember correctly, with like about close to 10,000 people. How are 10,000 people talking about gaming journalism? Like how are there 10,000 people talking about this? I almost did not flub that Lash ult. I used my Lash ult actually in that situation very strategically. It was to control space here. Yeah, that's what happened. It wasn't just me absolutely choking that. We're winning pretty handily here in this round, honestly, and I think it's because of a lot of our defense here. I think defense is a big part of Deadlock that a lot of new players have a hard time figuring it out. And playing defensively is is kind of a painful experience at times, but it has to be done. So yeah, Polygon had layoffs, and the Xbox came out with a bunch of a price increase for a lot of their stuff. I did not see that coming, and honestly, I don't know what Xbox is thinking right now. So they raised the prices on everything, from their hardware to their controllers, and they even raised the prices from some of the first party games, which is nuts. I don't know how Xbox thinks, because I said this in my last video about Nintendo. I think people are willing to pay $80 for a new Nintendo game. No one in their right mind is going to pay $80 for a half-baked EA game, and absolutely nobody is going to be paying $80 for an Xbox One game or an Xbox Series X game or whatever at $80 a pop. That came out 2 years ago. That's nuts. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know. I own an Xbox myself. To be honest with you, though, I don't think anyone needs to be buying games right now. I said this in my last video, I think. I don't need to buy any more games. There are enough video games that I have in my rotation and enough video games in my backlog that I'm probably satiated for the next several years. And gaming itself is such an interesting space, too, because I think obviously the most popular games right now are games like Fortnite, like Call of Duty, like FIFA and stuff, like the stuff that has an annual release every year or is an always online situation where skins seem to be the selling point. As of right now, it just really feels like we are at a precipice or a stage right now in gaming where I guess the shareholders need to see more value from gaming somehow, and I really don't think. I think they're squeezing the last bits of juice out of that lemon right now with this price increase stuff. I really do not see customers wanting to pay more money for these AAA games anymore, especially knowing the state that these games come out in on day one is just silly. Like, why you are honestly penalized for buying a game brand new, I feel, versus just waiting maybe a few months for when the game goes on sale or goes on a deep discount or even just goes on the Xbox Game Pass thing. Like, I don't know. I really, it's an interesting case right now. I think we're moving in a direction where I guess we're going to have big budget AAA games that I don't know who is going to be fully interested. I can't honestly, that type of gamer I don't really seem to understand at all. And we're just going to have all these other small indie developers or all these other small studios that make these small, quick, bite-sized games, and that's kind of the direction we're going in. And I think that's a good thing here and there. I think the fact that indie gaming has basically proven to be the direction to go in for the most part in terms of value proposition for any kind of game you want to purchase or any kind of game you want to try versus AAA stuff. At least it's just my opinion. I'm not a big AAA gamer myself. I could care less about the newest Call of Duty or the newest FIFA game, but clearly there's enough of an audience where people still do. That 7 really got me there with that stun, honestly. I'm really wanted to get out of there. I tried everything, but I got the walker, I guess. I probably could have just gotten the walker and then backed out through the back door. I didn't really have to go forward, but I don't know. I got greedy. and I think honestly, if this goes to any Deadlock player, any MOBA player, I think your mental health would be a lot better when you acknowledge how greedy you can be when playing this. Here I am doing it again for the most part. Thankfully, though, I think I catch myself and I kind of take a step back and I help the haze here. Okay, never mind. I don't help haze. I somehow I helped kill Talon. I don't know what I did exactly, but I forgot. God, this map. One thing I want to say actually that I thought about while I was recording this footage was that I think it'd be really cool if there was like a randomization of the ads that appear all over the map. I don't know. I think that'd be kind of neat. It would be kind of cool if, like, let's say for example, you're playing. No one like Dynamo's not in the game right now, right? Let's say for example, you're playing a match and Dynamo's not in it, and there were like small little ads or like little billboards with like Dynamo on it or McGinnis or who knows what. I don't know. I'm just pitching ideas. I'd be curious to see if that's feasible to do like a random, like randomly generate or randomly like place different ads on these billboards and whatnot across the map, depending on the game that you're playing. Probably would be a little, I don't know, who knows? I just think it'd be kind of cool. I would love to see more of those ads, though. I love the advertising aspect of the Deadlock map itself. I think it's so quaint. It really brings together the whole, that New York vibe and feel. Not only that, but even the skybox itself. Yeah, anyways, let's see here. These Skinner sacrifice boxes, man, it's really, if you can get that big Grand Slam punch, that's so nice. And I think I'm going to try to swoop in here on this poor Dynamo. I love that slam whip combo. That's such a good 1-2 punch for the most part. Do I have ult here? Let's go. Let's go! Ah, nice. There have been times, by the way, when playing Lash, what a great combo. What a good juggle right there. Damn, that Mirage got absolutely sandwiched. I've been trying to incorporate that punch movement piece a bit. I know it's not a big buff to your movement, but it can help you get to like certain ledges. If you need like that extra little to get to that ledge that you might need to get to, yeah, definitely try to incorporate it a bit. I'm trying to do it a little bit myself. I will admit, you can get stuck in a situation though where you're doing it too much, and then you end up like kind of screwing yourself over. And man, I'm really excited when this game fully comes out. I guess one thing I'm a little worried about though, and I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys about this, is that I'm worried that I'm probably going to get myself burnt out on this game during this testing phase. And then not want to play it anymore by the time it comes out. That is a fear that I have. And I don't know, if I become like a Deadlock content creator and I don't even want to play the game anymore, that could be a bit of a problem. But one thing I will comment on is that I don't think enough players do this, where they come into this like this little stage area here. I think after a big team fight, it's pretty smart to actually come here and just grab a few of these like little buffs. This is a huge spot where they're at. It's kind of an interesting aspect that mid has, and I wonder how that actually affects the balancing of this poor Dynamo, man. Hey, man, you were way too pushed up. Not sure how that slam did not connect, but that's okay. This Dynamo, he was just out of position, man. That guy, Dynamo, I love Dynamo's movement, but you got to know when and where to be able to pull that stuff off. Dynamo is definitely not a frontline character. Abrams for sure might be. Infernus could be here and there, but you got to be really careful as Dynamo. I've not played Dynamo in a hot minute, by the way. I've actually been playing a lot of different characters. I think I talked about this in a previous video as well, but I've been playing a lot of Paradox as of late. She's been fun. I've been playing a lot of Kelvin. She's fun. If there's a specific character, I'm going to call this out. Sorry, there's a rocket ship running past my house right now. If there's a specific character you want me to try out, actually, let me know. I'd be happy to give a few characters a shot. If there's actually any aspects of these videos that you guys want me to kind of discuss or talk about topic-wise, feel free to pitch into the comments. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly lately I've been trying to get a lot better at playing 7 because I don't know what it is. I've just been having atrocious 7 games. I don't necessarily think it's entirely my fault. I think as far as my performance with 7, I do okay, but man, sometimes I'll just get stuck in games where I have a guy who just rage quits, or check out this one here, Talon gone. Sometimes Lash's ult, sometimes any of these ults are just great to just get a single kill. You don't need to get the 5 combo Lash ult all the time. You know what I mean? So that entry with that kill right there kind of leads to this like kind of snowballing effect with all these other kills that comes up. Man, I hate getting parried. that I don't know how that Infernus was able to pull off those parries there. I'm not sure how that wasn't a parry either, by the way. And honestly, even in that situation with Shiv, you just got to run away. You just got to get the hell out of there, honestly. Like, Shiv could be one of those characters that could easily get you down even a little bit further. And once you're down just enough, his ult can easily finish you off. And thankfully my teammate kind of stepped in there for a little bit, and then on top of that, I kind of backed away from Shiv there. I made it kind of pretty hard for him to pull off that ult on me because I kind of took a step back and then played a little defensively. That's a big part of Deadlock, and if you're having a hard time, maybe like in a certain match, or like if you're having a hard time just within certain games, mastering that kind of skill or component of Deadlock is so crucial. Like of knowing when to be in and out of a fight. Like in this case right here, theoretically, I guess I could stay here. All they have left is Talon and Mirage. But I'm actually going to go shop. I'm going to go gamble real quick. This is not smart of me. I really should be punished for this. I'm so low. I'm literally a sneeze could kill me here, and I just stay here. I just keep farming and stuff. We have rejuve though, so in my defense, I guess I'm not totally SOL, but I'm not doing myself favors. One thing I'll say too about this kind of talk, I mean, getting the 3-hit combo is huge. Should have probably done it there in that situation, but sometimes if you're just stealing farm, if you're stealing those from your opponent, I really think it's probably in your benefit to actually just rip and tear and just get those things done as quickly as possible. Avoid getting a 3-hit thing. A lot of the components of what helps with your Deadlock game, I find, is your timing and also your positioning. If you can understand, like, hey, I should probably not be in this area for this long, or I should probably not be in this area at all because, my teammates are over there and the opponents are here. Mastering all of that is just another big component to the Deadlock piece. I think people are more focused on getting the right build or mastering a certain character and their movement and everything. I think another big part of that, though, that people tend to forget a lot about or tend to maybe ignore is the mastery. Look at that. What am I, Spider-Man here? What? Jesus. That was really cool. If only it led to something. But I guess that's a great example, though. I mean, like, theoretically, could I have gone balls deep on those two right there and started working a kill? I guess, but then I could have also risked me getting killed in the beginning of the fight, which would have kind of screwed over our push, especially since we have rejuve and everything. So, as you can see here, based on the YouTube time here, the video is coming to an end here. So, obviously, our team, if you haven't noticed, is winning pretty hand over fist. We still have 2 of our walkers up and everything. One thing I want to get better at with these videos, and it's just really more of a me thing. This is kind of an artistic choice, I guess, or kind of like a creative choice in my head. Don't get me wrong, I love showing footage of me winning a game and dominating and having a good game. I really have to challenge myself though and push myself to actually put footage up of games where I don't win and maybe I don't do well. Just because I want you, the viewer, to realize that I'm not I'm not that good at this game. I would say I'm pretty average. I'm pretty, who even knows what that actually means because the test environment and whatnot, and also the population of this game. But I'm pretty average or above average. But here we are. Look at this Mirage pushing in. Like, there's 4 of us there, and then Shiv just joins. Like, bad positioning on this other team's part here. I think that's kind of what led to their downfall a little bit. But going back to what I was saying a minute ago, I do struggle, I think, with trying to find a good bad game to show, and even just committing to that bit of showing a bad game. I really want to get this Shiv here. Nice. All right. One thing you'll notice about my gameplay here right now also is that I have been part of almost every fight that's happened within this match. So I'm very, very proud of myself for the crazy amount of assists. That's kind of why I have this footage here, because it was just a game where I did fairly well as Lash, and I wanted to show it off a little bit. But I do want to get better about showing footage where I don't do well, and where I mess up and where I lose and whatever. I don't know if it's hard. It's just that I guess in the back of my head, I just worry that that's not going to be entertaining to watch. But in my head, to play devil's advocate, on the other hand, my role should be to try to make that entertaining in some way. Maybe talk about what I did wrong or what I could have done better here. I might trim down a lot of this, by the way. Here's me buying Warpstone, by the way. I'm kind of late into the game here. I've never really... believe it or not, what you're seeing here right now is actually the first time I've ever used Warpstone in this game. I'm not a big item guy, and I've never touched Warpstone. I've seen it done pretty well with Abrams. And I don't really understand what Warpstone does for Lash for the most part. If you're a Lash player and you want to yell at me in the comments as to why I wasn't running Warpstone the whole game, please feel free to do so. Again, though, just the last thing, just to touch on, this whole team's out of position right now. Like, they're losing pretty bad, and yet they're still pushing up, trying to get their own farm. They should probably have tried to fix lanes first, or I don't know. We're also at such a Souls advantage too that at this point it's probably even matter. And yeah, going back to the Warpstone piece though, I try to use it here and there. I don't think it goes super hot though. I don't think there was never really a moment when using this in the little game that I was playing here today where I thought to myself, wow, Warpstone, thank God yeah, there's case in point. Wow, thank God I have Warpstone. Thank God I just Warpstone over to even this Dynamo. Wait, I don't know what are we warping to? What are we stoning to? Yeah, and at this point, the whole team's down. We pretty much win here. It's unfortunately, it's one of those games where I think we kind of end up steamrolling the other team. And the steamrolling aspect of this game is, I would be curious to see what Valve is thinking about that process. And honestly, going back to, again, just the last thing, with this, I'd be curious to see if that's a big challenge with Valve right now with the testing period of Deadlock, or if that's something that they're fully prepared for. We end up winning here. Before I wrap up the video, I wanted to showcase how many assists I had. I had like the most assists, 29, pretty crazy. That's the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Let me know you guys liked and didn't like about this video, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.